Welcome to the High Performance Man podcast. I am your host, John Fayocavitz. On this show, I interview successful men who have built impressive careers and businesses, founders, CEOs, and leaders, and professionals who have created at a high level for years. We talk about what actually made them successful. The goal is simple: to learn directly from the men who have done it so we can apply those insights into our own careers, businesses, and lives and continue raising our own standard of performance. Our show is sponsored by the Prime Performance Method. The Prime Performance Method is designed specifically for high-performing men who have achieved success in their careers. They feel like their body and energy have taken a hit along the way. I help busy professional men regain strength, lose weight, and feel younger within 8 weeks without long workouts, extreme dieting, and disrupting their demanding schedules. If you're a high-performing man who wants to learn to get as strong and energized as you are and successful in your business, message me, John Fayocavitz, on LinkedIn. On today's show, we have Daniel Krynzel. He is the founder and CEO of Big Balls Brotherhood, where he works with entrepreneurs and business owners who help scale their businesses and elevate how they show up as men. Welcome to the show, Daniel.
Thank you, John.
Okay. My first question: what is the most important lesson that you've learned so far that has helped you become successful in your business?
Yeah, I think it's a simple word. It's discipline. It's faith and discipline. Discipline around faith, having a long burning desire for faith, and discipline together.
All right. That's great. And now I see that you're on the thing that your faith obviously is you wrote in your intro there that you had God as part of your life.
Yes.
Okay. And that's exactly what part of mine too. Okay. So we're talking on the same thing. So faith and discipline.
That's right.
Okay, great. Okay. Next, what do you think hinders a lot of men today from reaching their full potential?
Well, when men are scared, they won't show up the way they need to. And a lot of men actually act weak. And I might be triggering a lot of guys that are listening to this right now, but it's the truth.
No, that's why we have this. I mean, this is why we're here.
So there's big balls required. That's why it's called the Big Balls Brotherhood.
I was going to get to that, what that name came, but I'm glad you just introduced yourself into it. So, yeah.
So whenever you want to build something that's substantial, there's a lot of things that are going to happen. There's a lot of hurdles and mountains you're going to have to climb. And a lot of times men quit. They stop. They want to get into the comfort zone. They just want to make sure everything's going to be okay. And that's not the way that God intended men to be and the way God intended men to lead. So being a leader, there's big balls required to be a leader at home, at work, everywhere.
And that's like, I guess it's the no quit mantra.
That's right.
Okay, great. For most men on the road to business or professional success, Daniel, other areas of their life get sacrificed. Okay. Has that happened to you in any shape or form? And if it has, what have you taken steps to?
Yeah, that's always going to happen at some level for anyone. You're always going to be out of balance. I mean, look at our president.
Yeah.
You know, his sleep schedule guaranteed out of balance. It's been out of balance for many, many, many years, but he's also built some incredible stuff.
Right.
And he's made a huge impact, not just in the US, but across the whole world. What's great about, an example like Trump or some of these other big leaders that we have that are making big impacts on the world is that when they're out of balance, it doesn't matter. They're still doing other things and they're doing everything that they can to make sure all those other areas are still charged up and still improving. Okay. Look at his kids for a second.
Right. Yeah.
Do you really think that Donald Trump had time to tuck in his kids and brush their teeth every single night? Probably not. But look at how successful they are. They're massively successful. All of them are. Mm-hmm. Why? Because of his influence. Because the time that he did spend with them was potent.
Right.
So this whole work-life balance thing, I think you can throw it out the window. You're going to build something, you're going to have to get out of balance to build it.
Right.
Knowing, though, that... Say that again?
On my podcast, I've had many guests, and you're not the first one that said there's no such thing as a work-life balance.
There's not. It's going to be hard.
I mean, if
It's
you
going to
want
be
to be
long nights, early
successful,
mornings.
yeah.
Yes.
How long have you had your business?
So I've been in business my whole entire life. I started being an entrepreneur when I was 13 years old. The Big Balls
Wow.
Brotherhood actually officially launched last April. It's
Okay.
been very exciting and very incredible to see the men change inside the Brotherhood literally before our eyes. It's just been such a powerful movement that we've created, and the environment that we have is full of excitement and full of success. It's been amazing to be a part of.
So you're a consultant then for individual men? Is that what you're?
That's one of the things that I also do is business consulting. I consult for large businesses and small businesses as well. So that was something that I know God was like sharpening me to help men make more money. So then when that whisper came in early last year to build this brotherhood and to call it the Big Balls Brotherhood, I was strong in the areas of helping men make more money, because the truth is, if men aren't making the money that they truly want to make and truly know that they need to make, they're weak.
Right.
John, have you ever been in a situation, or have you ever heard of someone not being able to pay their bills? Think about that for a second. You you don't act confident and secure and with certainty. You don't make big moves when you can't even pay your bills. You're weak.
Right.
When
Right.
you're weak, you can't lead. So that's
Right.
why I focus heavily on the actual income component and building wealth inside the brotherhood, and then obviously in the business consulting line that I do as well.
Okay. So you started this in April. What did you do before this? I mean, was it a
Yeah.
transitional thing, or did you just say God said this is what I'm doing?
Well, it was kind of a little of both of that. So was doing business consulting for about 5 years before we launched the Big Balls Brotherhood last year. And before that, I was in the real estate industry for about 22 years. Had a lot of success in there. It was incredible to be a part of that. We
Right.
did a lot of mortgage loans. We did a lot of real estate transactions, and I had some big teams, owned a couple of companies. It was awesome. And then I got that whisper about 6 years ago to step into the business consulting realm, and that's where I really sharpened my skills. I can see things that a lot of people can't see,
Right.
and we focus on where the money is coming in and what activities actually were produced to bring in that income, and we focus on that
Right.
and make sure that that is where most of the time is spent. So the income is being brought in and the fulfillment is being, you know, administered to the clients depending on what they're selling. And then it was a pretty easy transition at that point when God said, all right, just men, bring them into the brotherhood, have this brotherhood component, have the bond that these brotherhood are going to build, have the accountability, have the group, have the live events, have the weekly and daily interactions with the men. And it was scary, but at the same time, that's why it's called the Big Balls Brotherhood. There's big balls required to do big things, especially when God's whispering to create
Absolutely.
something for him.
Wow. That's great. So, wow. Okay. So here's my next question. You've got this business and you've been going. When do you find yourself at peace?
The answer to that is the word fulfillment. That's the answer.
So this isn't a job for you.
No,
This is
not at all.
just okay. So you're at peace almost every single day. I mean, I'm sure you go through stress and anxiety and some things, but you know God's behind you.
Correct. Here's the other part that most men will never taste, which is mission and purpose. When you're just building something to pay the bills, when you're just building something to make a bunch of money,
You're not going to
it
go.
might feel good short term. You might buy the exotic cars and the big house and the big garage full of toys and bunch of assets and a bunch of bank accounts and a bunch of investments, and you got a bunch of crypto and everything's cool. But then you look in the mirror and you're like, wow, this is it. I thought I was going to feel better. And the reason why it doesn't feel better is because you're not fulfilled. And the reason you're not fulfilled is because you're not on the mission and the purpose that God has intended for you to be on. That's the
Right.
problem.
Wow. That's you're my audience is going to love this.
That's
Okay.
good.
because what's I like about it is you're straight to the point, which is great. Like you said, hey, if you're going to be weak, change it.
That's right.
You know what I
Plus, you
mean?
can't be on God's team if you're weak. That's the
Right,
truth.
right,
He doesn't have time. He doesn't play people that are supposed to be on the bench, or he doesn't
right,
play people that didn't make the cut on the team. You got
right,
to be a starter. To be a starter, you have to be faithful, you have to have discipline, and you have to align to your purpose and your mission, and you have to do whatever God calls you or inspires you to do. And you
right,
can't quit. Straight up, you can't quit. Here's
right.
what's great about it. At the end of the day, when you look in the mirror and you look into your own eyes and you stare into your own soul, you can smile with excitement because you know what you're doing is changing the world for God. Your impact is massive. That's what the big leaders of this world have, is fulfillment. That's why we can see some of these huge leaders that are making a huge impact. They don't care what's involved to get it done. They just keep pushing. They don't
Right.
quit
They don't
because
care what people say.
they know it's worth it.
Right. They don't care what people say and everything else.
No.
Right. What about going back to the sacrifice things? Or what about relationships in your health? Anything?
Yeah.
Was that ever a problem?
So there's always, again, that balance situation that we have. But here's the thing. When you have your family life and when you have your nutrition and your exercise routine, those things have to be present. Because the truth is, doesn't matter how disciplined and how motivated and how much faith you have and how much purpose and fulfillment you're chasing with impact. If your body doesn't come with you, then you can't do anything. So obviously, yes, nutrition and exercise is important.
Well,
So
yeah,
monitoring what you eat, monitoring how you exercise and how often you exercise is very important. And then also making sure that you're leading your family. That's the one thing that I don't know if you've probably seen this, John, but it's, oh, we got to have date night. I've got to make sure my wife is happy. Like, yeah, you got to make sure that your wife is happy, but you don't make sure your wife is happy with being a weak little man. How you make sure your wife is happy is you give her what she wants. You give her what she needs because you're the man that makes the money and the impact that is required to give her what she needs.
right,
Not to mention, when you lead with certainty and confidence, she will follow you. She will listen. Same thing with the
right.
kids. I've got 6 kids collectively.
You
It's
have
a
6.
full-time job. 6. They're
Wow.
older, younger. Some of them are in Florida, some of them are in Colorado, some of them are here in Nevada. They're everywhere.
Well,
When
that
I have time with my kids, it's potent time.
you really had to learn that the time you
Yes,
had to spend with the family.
that's right.
I mean, and then again, you only have 24 hours in a day to do things. And, I don't know if you prioritize things or, do you have a morning routine that you go through
Yes,
that you just can't happen? I'm sure something has to do with the God, right? Meditate.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every morning.
Every morning we have some software that we have inside the Big Bulls Brotherhood app. It's called the Daily Inspired. And inside the Daily Inspired, it gives the men in the Brotherhood an opportunity to read some of the Bible and then do a Bible study with God and connect at a completely different level than most men have ever had. And they're building a connection the way they want it. It's not a religious movement. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're Catholic or Christian or whatever,
Right.
but it's you building the bond and the relationship that you want. So yes, my morning routine is bulletproof. Nothing gets in the way of my morning routine. When I wake up, the very first thing I do is get into my morning routine. I have a cup of coffee, I have a cigar, and it's time on the balcony with God. And it doesn't change. Hasn't changed for years. I don't miss a morning and I will never will. Doesn't
Right.
matter what needs to be done. I get
Right.
up earlier to make sure I have time with God.
As you should, and as we should. Okay. Every single day.
Yeah.
Okay. Last thing I want to ask you, if you were to give one piece of advice to other men that are on their journey of achieving success, what would it be?
We need to chase fulfillment, purpose, and mission. Those are the 3 words: fulfillment, purpose, and mission. And actually, fulfillment comes last
So
in
purpose.
that equation. You got to find your purpose. You got to find your mission. God gave every man a set of gifts and talents at birth.
And that's the thing I think a lot of men speaking is, because again, dealing with men, is they don't know what their gift is yet. You know, and they're hunting and pecking and going through life trying to find out what their purpose is, like you're mentioning, and what their mission is. But if they sat down and realized and meditated and got the junk out of their head, okay, I think that would bring them some kind of tranquility. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Well, there's two parts of this conversation. So the gifts and talents, men do know what their gifts and talents are, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
If they just have a quick little time with themselves, like you said, close
Yep.
their eyes in meditation or close their eyes and just breathe in. The question that they answer is, what am I good at? What am I
Right.
really good at? Because when you can answer that question, that's your gift and talent. You might have multiple, you might have one, you might have a couple, you might have a few that are very prevalent, then you might have a few that you don't know about yet. But you're going to know what you're good at.
Right.
Once you know what you're good at, because God made you that way.
Right.
He made you special a certain way for him, not for you, for him. So when you know what your gift and talent is, then the next step is to align to your purpose and mission. And the only way that you're going to align to your purpose and mission efficiently and correctly is getting that inspiration from God directly. He's the only one that knows. You're not going to figure it out with a coach or a program, or you're just not.
Right.
We don't do that in the Big Balls Brotherhood. I don't tell men what their purpose and their mission is. I help the men and elevate the men and connect them to God, and then they actually get that revealed in their time with God. Some of the men get a picture or an image or a thought, or sometimes God speaks through other people. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, that is what I'm supposed to be doing. So then we lock in, we do our strategic planning time, and we stand that up, and we have these men make a bunch of money doing that with a bunch of impact. And then ultimately they're fulfilled. They look in the mirror, they look into their soul, and they're happy with what they see.
So you have is this Brotherhood worldwide? Well, I guess they're worldwide, but I guess United States, is that, or is it just
Yeah, we have members in Canada and in the United States currently.
okay? Is it prevalent in Nevada?
It's prevalent just in the US in general.
Okay.
We've got some Nevada guys. We've got people from just about everywhere in the US now, which has been
Okay.
incredible to be a part of.
Would you want to tell? Do you have a website or?
Yeah, it's real simple. If anyone wants to check us out,
Right.
you can just Google the Big Balls Brotherhood, or you can type bigballsbrotherhood.com. We're in all the social media channels and YouTube and
Okay.
all that good stuff. But it's
I
a
might
very
be
sacred
doing it
place.
myself.
Yeah, that'd be great. And John, I want to mention to you and everyone else, it's a very sacred place. We don't just let men come into the Brotherhood. They have to go through an interview process to be accepted. This is a
Awesome.
private elite men's group. And I say that with a lot of authority. And the reason why is because the men that are a part of the Brotherhood, they're counting on this to change their life forever. So we have to make sure that the quality of men that show up are the right men,
Right. That's awesome.
So,
That's awesome, Daniel. I appreciate it. Well, Daniel, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. And thank you so much for the time you put on. Okay. This has been awesome. Very, very insightful for me, myself, personally. Okay. I loved it, and I will be in touch. I'm going to check it out. Because I need to do something too. So
good.
this is something that maybe you opened my eyes to a lot of things. And I know you might have some of my audience too. Okay. So as a reminder, okay, everyone listening, this show is brought to you by the Prime Performance Method, where I help high performing men rebuild strength, energy, and confidence without sacrificing their careers. If you are ready to feel strong in your body as you are successful in your business, message me at John Fayocavitz on LinkedIn. Until next episode, perform strong in all areas of your life.